Thank you so much for making time for today's webinar. Today, we are going to have a very interesting discussion. As you may already be seeing on the screen, we are trying to discuss or further the discussion around climate resilient agriculture and the banner of the virtual club. And this is the East Africa chapter. Today, we are exploring resilience building for smallholder farmers. And we are looking at it from two perspectives. That is from a technology perspective and from an insurance perspective. And joining us today is a very powerful panel that I'm going to introduce later. So basically, the agenda for this webinar today, I'm going to start with a welcome note, and then I'll introduce our panelists, and then we'll go into the panel discussion, after which we will have a chance to ask questions or add any comments that we would like to add to the discussion. And then there will be closing remarks from us and from the panelists. So welcome, I am your host today. My name is Willis Ogutu. I am a senior analyst at MicroSave Consulting. I'm based in Nairobi, but we work across the continent as well as outside Africa. So today we are going to discuss the topic, as I have mentioned, under the CRAG VC Climate Resilient Agriculture Virtual Club East Africa chapter. You can interact with us also on the social media under the CRAG VC hashtag, and you can amplify our tweets. You can also tweet, and we will be able to see your tweets around this topic. So talking about today's topic, I would like us to start with a Zoom poll that is going to come your way in a few seconds. And I just want you to look at these three questions. And they're simple questions from your general understanding of this landscape. I want you to choose whether you think the sentence is true or false. So we're going to give a few minutes for this poll. Each question will come one at a time. And then after a few seconds, we are going to show the next question and then the third question. And then you're going to see the result. And these questions are going to be part of the discussion that we're going to have today. Okay, I see the first question has already been answered, and we're already getting 100% false for that. We are asking, agricultural insurance covers more than 2% of the total insurance premium in Kenya, and 100% of the respondents think it is false. Okay, let's go to the next question. Great, here is the second question. Farmers in Kenya lose more than 100% of the harvested grains due to poor proposed harvest management practices. Do you think this is true, or do you think this is false? Let's see your responses. Okay, let's see the responses. Good. So 38% of the respondents think it is true that farmers in Kenya lose. Okay. Third question, maybe. Last one. Okay. So do you think it's true or false that agri-insurance can work beyond the production phase of the value chain? Do you think it is true or is it false that agri-insurance can work beyond the production phase of the value chain? Let's see what you think. Let's see the responses. 100% think it is true that agri-insurance can work beyond the production phase of the value chain. Thank you so much for your responses. And this is going to set a very good stage for our discussion today, to also go deeper into these issues and see what is possible and what we can do and what we have already done. So moving forward, I just wanted us to see some of these images. And if you can see right now on the extreme left, pictures of grains. And if you look at these grains keenly, you may notice that there is some sort of deformation in them. And this is a mold infestation. This kind of product may not be suitable for human consumption. And the farmer that has this is probably not able to use it for any economic gain. Or if they can, the value must be very low. In the middle of the frame, you can see a granary. I think this is something that most of us who are born and bred in the continent of Africa may have seen that traditionally there were certain structures that were used to, store grains, and this is how they were constructed in general. But currently, on the third image on this frame, you can see some sort of containers, and these are the improved forms of storage that are currently replacing what we are seeing at the center of this frame. So this is some kind of, storage solution that is currently coming. So we're going to see why it is important to look at these images in the next slide. So research has shown that farmers in Western Kenya are losing more than 1 million tons of maize annually. At the same time, there are reports that Kenya needed to import about 700,000 tons of maize for 2022-2023 financial year alone. So you can compare the amount of loss that we are experiencing with what we need. We are losing more than what we have to buy from outside. And where is this loss coming from? There are multiple, different sources of this loss: maize weevil attacks, large grain borer, and there is intensive research that has been done to show exactly how much losses are coming from each and every of these sources. So I've not shown all the possible reasons of loss or the possible causes of losses, but there are many that we'll also explore as we continue this discussion. So we are asking two main questions. Is there a strong case for ag insurance in the ag value chains beyond the production phase? And secondly, what support role can post-harvest technology play within this space? So I would like to introduce our panelists today. We are lucky today to have three high-powered panelists here. We have Mr. Eliud Rugut. Eliud is the co-founder at Silo Africa. Silo Africa offers technology-enabled solutions for grain farmers in Kenya. We're also joined by Mr. Anish Gulati. Anish Gulati is a senior manager at MicroSave Banking, Financial Services and Insurance. And he is going to give us the perspectives of a researcher and somebody who has lots of expertise around the insurance practice, especially in ag insurance. We're also lucky today to be joined by Mr. Farid Wangara, who is the Chief Operations Officer and also Principal Officer at ECA Africa. ECA Africa offers insurance solutions in the agriculture space in several countries across Africa. We're going to go into our panel discussion today, and I'm going to be a moderator. As I had mentioned, my name before is Willis Ogutu. So without taking too much time with these introductions, I'd just like to dive into this conversation. And what I would like to start from is perspectives from somebody who has interacted with these farmers and has been able to see firsthand the kind of challenges that they go through in terms of what post-harvest losses cost them. Then from that, we'll be able to see what kind of innovative solutions or what kind of approaches can we take to help them address these challenges. So I will give this chance to our first panelist, Mr. Eliud Rugut. First, also take this moment to introduce himself within a few seconds, and then to tell us what he does and the challenges that he has seen farmers face and what his perspectives are on post-harvest losses in general.
As mentioned, I am the founder of Silo Africa, and I'm also a smallholder farmer from Rift Valley, Kenya. I farm maize, I farm cash crops like capsicums, I farm beans. And apart from that, one of the biggest challenges that I came to realize as a farmer is losing a lot in terms of post-harvest losses, especially on the grains part, which is a major staple crop for us. We want to feed our families. We want to get income out of it to pay for our school fees. And this is something that we've really struggled as a family, myself and my family. And because I come from a smallholder family, which is likewise to my neighbors. And from the engagement in farming, I was able to realize that we were losing a lot in terms of post-harvest, around 5 to 7 bags per acre. Due to the poor storage, because we normally use the normal gunias, the gunny bags, and these bags can be easily infested with weevils, with with rats, rodents, and also aflatoxin, which is a major impediment to our food security. So Silo Africa, I went ahead and realized that we need to solve this thing. I, as a farmer myself, I decided to purchase one of these silos. It was actually invented by the Food and Agriculture Organization around 1940, and I was able to to use it. But now, alongside using it, I was able to realize that there are still challenges with the technology itself, and it's not bulletproof. And at Silo Africa, we decided not to bring in technology where we have a post-harvest loss detection device. We've embedded it in this silo. And as a farmer, I'm able to get instant notification alerts in the event of any infestation, whether it's from weevils, whether it's from rodents, rats, whether it's from Osama, as you guys have experienced, because it causes a lot of losses for us as farmers. And I can say post-harvest losses, it's a concept that we really think that is out of reach. But I believe you guys have tested food. You've tested githeri that has been infested by weevils. It's not pleasant. And some of us during our high school days, you'd find something meat-like that tastes like meat, and you know there's no meat in this githeri. Yeah, that is Osama. And that is how close we are getting to post-harvest losses. And last year I was inspired. We had a very huge problem in terms of hunger in this country. There's a lot of famine areas, the semi-arid areas like Kajiado, there's Wajir. There's a huge problem. And I was able to meet one of the village elders there. He's called Lesan from Kajiado County. And this guy, after experiencing all that hunger, he was able to take his family, realize like he can't stop there. He took his village members and they're able to go to the nearest school where their children were going to, and they're actually queuing for that school meal during lunch hour. And this was it really touched me. Like, and you find that the mothers, they're actually waiting once the guys who are preparing the maize, after sifting, they would collect the remains from the maize and they would use it to go and feed their children back at home when they get back from school. So this really touched me, because why are we importing 700,000 tons, yet we are losing 1 million tons from post-harvest losses? So it inspired me and my team to come up with this solution. And we are glad that yes, despite the challenges that we are experiencing in terms of financing to scale our product, but one by one, we decided to do it one household at a time, impact one household at a time, and we believe it'll go somewhere. Thank you.
Eliud, I would like to bring in Anish, but before I do so, I would just like to know from you, Eliud. You're mentioning a very touching story of how the post-harvest loss is becoming a very big problem and touching people's lives. So, from your solution, I know you said you provide silos that have technologies that are able to monitor quality and all that. Do you think people also know losses in terms of quality, say infestation by aflatoxins, for example? Do you see farmers having the ability to understand that is also another form of loss? Eliud?
Oh yes. Farmers, I myself, like I said, I'm a farmer myself. And from what I've experienced, what my parents have experienced, what my neighbors are experiencing, they've really come to appreciate the magnitude of the problem. Because every loss means we are not able to have sufficient food. Every bag lost to weevils means we are not able to pay for school fees for our children. Every loss as a result of rats infestation means we are not able to meet our healthcare costs. And so this is very touching. It's something that has really affected the farmers, and they appreciate. They understand that it's a huge problem that needs to be tackled. Because if you start from the harvesting, at the point of harvesting, to the point of shelling, all the way to the point of storage, and 6 months right from storage, there's a lot that we lose there. And these are livelihoods that are being lost. People are dying because of post-harvest losses. And if you are attaching lives to the losses, then how serious can we get? We need to act, and we are starting with ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you. That is very well. Mr. Farid, we're lucky to have you here today. We just want to hear from you, your experiences around the ag insurance space. One of the things that we have seen from research and from publications is that the rate of uptake for ag insurance, especially in Kenya, and I'm sure even in the region, is not as high compared to, the need basis on the risks that are within this sector. What, from your experience, would be, the reason why farmers are not, rushing to take insurance covers, despite the fact that it's available? Maybe also take this time to introduce yourself briefly, and yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak to you. I hope you can hear me clearly.
Yes.
Right. So, as a way of introduction, my name is Farid Wangara. I'm the Chief Operations Officer and Principal Officer at ECA Africa. ECA is an organization that primarily deals, or rather develops agriculture insurance products for in various countries. We are headquartered in Nairobi, but also have operations. We have operating offices in Rwanda, Tanzania, Zambia, and Nigeria as well. But also have various ongoing projects in another 15 countries. You've rightfully put the experience we have, even in almost all, not just in Kenya alone, but largely in the sub-Saharan Africa. Agriculture insurance still has a very low uptake, less than 3%. And this is again attributed to so many things. One major thing that we see, especially when you're working with smallholder farmers, is that there is an understanding around climate risk. Farmers do understand that climate change is real. They are affected by various ailments during their production cycles, from the time they plant all the way to the time they harvest, and even they're affected post when they are transferring their produce to various storage places, to various off-takers and all that. They are affected by various risks. But again, I think still more than 10, 15, 20 years down the road, still agriculture insurance continue to look like a new and strange way of doing things. But I think previously, as even the many people that tried to enter into the agriculture insurance, I think they had very, very difficult experiences with the agriculture insurance in terms of claim settlements and all that. And most farmers sort of shied away from it. Number two, I think we still continue to grapple with capacity within the agri space. For example, I'll give you an example of Kenya. In Kenya, we have around 57 insurance companies, but out of the 57, only maybe around 5 to 6 in the Kenyan context are actively participating within the agri space. And even the 6 that are within the agri space, if you look at the capacity within those insurance companies, it's still very low to literally take up a big and large scale agriculture insurance. Beyond that, again, also, I think there's still a lot that needs to be done around education and capacity building and training to farmers, just to understand how agriculture insurance works and the importance of that. But the biggest other factor that we found is that yes, farmers do understand the risks that are inherent in agriculture space. And by extension, if you look at most of the sub-Saharan African countries, almost 60 to 70% of the agricultural production is largely from the smallholder perspective, where a lot of, or rather ECA plays a lot. The other portion is largely with large-scale, medium to large-scale farmers who basically understand what insurance is. But again, when you ask them why they're not taking insurance, they will tell you that yes, they understand the risks, but agriculture insurance doesn't fall within their top 5 priorities. Because even as they do growing of their crops, they're looking at, can I feed my children? Can I take them to school? Can I clothe them? Can I have better housing? Then agriculture insurance literally doesn't take center stage. So what ECA is doing just beyond the development of agriculture insurance is to be able to work with smallholder farmers in terms of increasing productivity, because then we understand if farmers are able to increase productivity. If I have been growing 5 bags of maize year in, year out for the last 20 years, I do not see any need to enhance my production. I don't see any need to protect that. But if you're able to employ other mechanisms like training on good agronomical practices, bringing in, and what we do it in ECA, we call it integrated risk management, that we're not just working in ourselves in terms of agriculture insurance production, development, but we're also bringing in other players in the market. We are bringing in financial institutions. So we train farmers on financial inclusion, we train farmers on good agronomical practices, and once that has happened and their productivity is improving from 5 bags to 10 to 15 bags, then they begin to see the essence of agriculture insurance. So we bring in financial institutions to be able to offer finance for good seeds, good input facilities, so that they can better their productivity. Extension services in terms of how do I plant, what seeds do I need for my region, what do I need to do to increase my productivity, so that beyond that, we are able to sort of just increase the appetite for agriculture insurance. When we started off, I think in 2009, all the way to 2014, I think we were working with less than 1 million, but ever since to date, over the countries we are working in, we've been able to work with over 3 to 4 million farmers, impacted their lives in various ways. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ongara, for this great inputs. You've mentioned, lots of very important things, especially what kind of approaches we can take to, increase this uptake, address the productivity issues, because they do not see the sense of taking up insurance for something that only gives them 5 bags. That is not as profitable as they would want it to be. So I think integrated risk management approach is a very good one, and also partnerships with financial institutions, and I'm sure other partners as well. But now, Anish, you are somebody who has had a lot of research and knowledge around insurance, especially agri insurance, and you also have a very strong understanding of the farmers, the users themselves. So with that, and plus your experience outside Africa, in Asia, I just like to understand from you, what are the greatest observations you've had around this, based on your research, either recent or past, that you can share with us around this topic?
Thanks, Willis. What generally insurance is served as, it's a purpose to indemnify the loss. So if we fall sick, we go to a hospital, it's they will pay for our bills, because going to a hospital for us is not a business activity. But if you look at from the perspective of a farmer, growing crop is a business for farmer. And if you do not compensate the loss, and if you just are covering for the losses which are up to the stage of production, and not really going into how the farmer was going to earn some profit out of the production, when it would have gone into a value addition stage, you are actually stealing a part of farmers hard work. So that way, insurance, as Farid was also saying, the insurance is always, and especially climate insurance, is always evolving. There is a need to definitely address the issue that the losses do occur post harvest, and because of climate change, the losses because of the post-harvest losses incidents have increased across the world. It's not just in Africa. So I'll take an example in India. In the state of Maharashtra, which is in the central part of the country, it is a very rare phenomena to have rainfall in the month of October. And September, October is also the harvest season. So, harvests are generally linked to the season when there is no rainfall. However, there was a widespread rainfall, again due to unfavorable climate conditions that occurred, which impacted around 350,000 farmers. Thankfully, most of these farmers had the government-backed crop insurance program. The Indian crop insurance program does cover for our post-harvest losses up to 15 days after the harvest, when the crop is generally expected to be laying in the ground for drying and all that thing. Though there were different opinions, because the crop cut experiments were done, technically the yield assessment was already done, but the farmers had their own problem that they cannot take this output to for sale, and there is a damage for that. So eventually, after a lot of to and fro, it was decided that these 350,000 farmers would be benefited, and the total claim that was paid to these farmers was $24 million. So at the heart of covering a loss is basically understanding what can be the problems. There can be insurance solutions that can be designed to deliver and designed to cover all the risks. The only challenge is that there should be somebody or at an organization level or at a sovereign level to take note of these things, that the post-harvest losses because of climate change will continue to increase. They will not reduce. They will continue to increase. That's point number one. And secondly, the insurance industry as such will have to build in those covers, and they will have to make out pricing accordingly, so that even if it is not a complete payment or a total indemnification for the loss of farmer, there can be at least some benefit that can be provided to the farmers. So we have seen in India, I think it's almost after 30 or 40 years that India has tried various crop insurance programs. We could get on to a stage where we are at least providing 2 weeks of post-harvest cover also. I'll just continue with one more kind of insurance intervention that's happening in India, which is again on post-harvest. It's not the farmers have their share of losses, but then there are aggregators or the warehouse owners who have reserved their capacities for those grains, and in case of loss of grains, the warehouse agencies lose out on the money because they trade on that on the agriculture produce. In such situations, very recently there has been an innovative product which is a parametric insurance designed for the warehouse owners, in case for the catchment area from where they're getting their produce. In case there are unforeseen events in those areas, the parametric insurance would trigger, and it would provide them a loss or a business interruption or a loss of profit kind of cover to them. So it's very much in line with how the traditional insurances work in established value chain, where they understand that where even the first party may not have a loss at their end, but because of somebody else's loss also, they can bear the loss. It's largely in oil and energy sector. It is something that is regularly observed. So I think I'll just take a pause here to share a couple of examples that I've seen, both on indemnity side and parametric insurance side. But yes, they really need to be thought after by the industry and the practitioners. Back to you, Willis.
Thank you so much, Anish. You've used some awesome terminology, parametric and indemnity. I'm hoping all of us in the audience understand these terms. If you don't understand them, please let us know in the chat, and we can provide some definitions. And if you have any questions also, please post it on the chat, and we will be able to address it as we continue or during the Q&A session. So I think Anish has brought in very great examples of certain approaches that are working to address post-harvest losses. I want to bring in Mr. Wangara. In your experience in Kenya and in the region, do we have insurance products, agri-insurance products that support the farmer beyond production? So if they are losing produce at storage, or if they are losing produce during harvest, is there a cover that exists right now that they can go to and they can get compensated in case of such losses? Mr. Farid, can you hear me? Yes, please.
Yeah, thanks very much, Ogutu. I would like to say that traditionally that never really existed. A lot of our focus was always put just around the production cycle, from when the farmer plants up to when the farmer harvests, because then the assumption was and has always been that that is the only, or rather that is the biggest time when the farmer would face risk, because of course of vagaries of weather, infestation of pests and diseases and all that. But now
sorry, Mr. Ongara, could you turn your video on? Is it okay? Thanks.
Apologies. Good. Hope you can see me now. Right, so that has always been the case, but as time has evolved, especially when we look at now the way the changes are coming into the market, the way changes are evolving within the production cycle, there are various agriculture insurance products that exist post-harvest. For example, we have products that would sort of what we call goods in transit, where if a farmer is transporting their produce from one particular place to another, either for storage or either to an off-taker or something like that, you would have goods in transit insurance. We've seen farmers losing produce because, I mean, the lorry they was traveling in fell and people stole the goods on the road, or during a rainy season it was stuck somewhere and things happen because of either how fragile or because of like flowers, for example, where you find the rate at which they wither is very, very high. And again, we also have insurance for example, for storage, where there's loss of quality, because you find that some farmers were either doing export and all that. So there are insurance products that will be able to cover that, the losses that would arise out of storage. But more importantly, I think the other biggest thing that we've been trying to figure out is, or rather we've been championing, is actually just on the agronomical practices, because issues around storage, what to store, how, and I'm happy what my colleague just talked about, Eliud from the Silo Africa, is that you need quality in terms of storage. How are you storing your grains? Where are you storing it? Is it susceptible to pests and diseases? Is it susceptible to things like moisture and all that? But yes, insurance does occur, and we do have various insurance products that would be able to take care of this. The most important thing is just to see, are there any moral hazards around the particular insurance product that we're administering, and how do we ensure that then the farmer is doing everything within their power, and if not, then whatever happens after that is sort of taken care of with insurance. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wanga. I think that is very great input, and you mentioned moral hazards. I think this is one thing that those of us who are very interested in insurance would understand. Something like opportunistic behavior, but I won't go into the terminology, but I want to hear from Eliud. Now that we are seeing there is possibility, maybe not in practice yet, that we can probably extend insurance, agri-insurance, beyond production. As a farmer and as someone who is interacting with many farmers out there, where do you think the most impact would be if we were to provide some kind of a cover post-production, post-harvest? Where do you think the largest impact would be? Where do they lose most, and where would be most impactful to take the product?
Okay, thank you very much, Elise. The most losses, like you said, it's post-harvest. It's during storage. How can we ensure these farmers that in the event that there's loss during storage, despite them taking up the best technology, in best storage devices, in spite of them incorporating technology into the storage devices, how best can we ensure them so that yes, the losses are huge, and in some situations it goes up to 50%. So if you insure during production phase alone, and you're leaving out during storage phase, and this is the most critical point, because from there, the next thing is sales. And if the sales are low as a result of post-harvest losses, you realize that the farmer cannot go back to planting. Yes, you've insured me to go back so that the insurance can take me back into, maybe can restore me into purchasing farm inputs, probably the seeds. But what happens to the amount I spent on plowing that land? The amount I spent on growth that we are restoring only, it's probably the seeds or maybe 1 or 2 fertilizers. But remember, the loss, the damage has already happened. Yes, am I able to go back? Can you able to restore me to my original position? Not just the original, but even looking forward. Because I'm not just going for this planting season, I'm not just planting for the sake of getting inputs for the following season. I'm also planting so that I can pay my bills. I can take my children to school. I can be able to meet my healthcare costs. I can be able to clothe my children. So how do we restore farmer to this position? Because we cannot only focus in restoring farmers to just being able to plant for the following season. What happens next? So I think the biggest space, what we really need to look at and collaboratively put our heads together is how do we ensure farmers post-harvest, during storage. Over to you.
Thank you so much for this great input, Eliud. And this brings me to ask a question, Anish. What would be the challenge for an insurance service provider trying to cover agricultural produce that are in storage? Would there be a difficulty? What would be the difficulty?
The basic premises on which anything is insured is what is the value of that product. So and one of the basic challenge in doing a valuation for a crop or an agriculture output is the demand and because the price varies every year based on the demand and supply. So in case of incidences where it's part of a contract farming, where there are well documented procedures laid out that the farmer is being given a loan of this amount, and then there would be agriculture input support of this value, and then eventually the agribusiness company will purchase at this value. Then it's a very clear case that the farmer has a legitimate proof of the valuation of the output. In cases where the small scale producers, which are not which that small scale producer characterize the agriculture systems in Asia, at least South Asia and Africa, they do not have very well documented proof of the valuation. For insurance, everything works on the proof of valuation. That's first part. Second, insurance companies would like to understand, how the goods will be stored, where the goods will be stored. Are there any precaution mechanisms, or there are not? So as at Silo, or if there are agencies who are providing good technology, remote sensing technology equipments to the farmers, then there is definitely a case where insurance companies would be interested to come and participate. The problem that insurance companies face is because of the unstructured and the informal nature, which currently or unfortunately is the ground reality for most of the small scale producers, and especially for the food crop growers. Cash crops are different thing. So these are, to be very crisp, a couple of challenges that insurers face. And if I have to just go back and see in terms of post harvest losses, generally these are very localized event. It's not that a post harvest loss or a rainfall, let's say, would occur across the county or across the province. It would occur in a certain area. So in absence of remote sensing or drone technology, the insurance company or the claim adjuster will have to send the manual to the team members to do an assessment, which becomes a cost ineffective mechanism for them. And that's where technology in all these things come very handy. So let's like Mr. Eliud was also talking about, or Mr. Farid was talking about, if there is losses due to moisture, or if there are anything or in case of a post-loss survey, there has to be a drone survey has to be done. So these are all things which can be remotely managed through technology, thankfully. And if there is a scale, then insurance companies or aggregators or agribusiness companies should be willing to invest in that technology. So that's how I see it from the perspective of insurance company on the challenge part of how to take up post harvest losses.
Yeah, I think that is very well put, and just want to hear from a practitioner, Mr. Ongara. Eliud's company provides a silo, for instance, that stores a certain amount of grain, and it has sensors that can know how much moisture, what is the moisture content How does it vary? What is the temperature of the silo? What was the carbon, the CO2, content within the storage space? So in fact, that probably enables them to know the quality of the grain while in storage. Would this be something that would be useful if you were to design an insurance product to, say, cover this grain in storage? And what else would pull a company like Egg Africa to develop a product around storage of agri-produce, Mr. Wangari?
Thank you so much, Ogutu. You've rightfully just put what I would have said. Insurance is data-driven, right? If you're doing any insurance product modeling, you need data to support that. And more often than not, you'll find that if you're working, for example, with farmers who basically have taken a lot of time and a lot of invested heavily in terms of just what they're doing to protect their produce, it becomes easier even on the premium chargeable to the farmers. That's why you'll find farmers who have data around even just the quality, what they're doing. And I remember we were speaking about, for example, the moral hazard. What am I doing as a farmer to be able to reduce all that? It really helps in the actual development of the agriculture insurance product. So someone who has this kind of data, it's easier, and especially if you've been keeping it for a very long time, because when you're looking at insurance product modeling, you're looking at historical data vis-a-vis what the expectation would be in the future. So any farmer that has heavily invested in that kind of data really helps in actual product modeling, and you find it's easier to even attract lower premium rates because of the extra effort as you as a farmer you've taken in terms of protecting your produce, for example. That really helps in terms of modeling and all that. So ideally, agriculture insurance, any product can be modeled so long as there is sufficient data to back a particular risk that a farmer is looking at. Thank you.
Awesome. That's very clear. So data is the fodder that is needed to, attract product development around this area. Then, Anish, what can we do about data? Is there, something that in the digital agriculture space that can help us to, know much more about farmers, know much more about their practices, know much more about their storage practices, and to just consolidate this information in a way that is accessible and can be used for decision making or for other data needs? Is it something that can be done, and how?
Definitely, data is the backbone for all agriculture underwriting, and or any underwriting for that matter. What I would say, the best time to start maintaining of the data repository is today. I mean, the yesterday has already passed, so start doing it from today. And thankfully, with the initiatives which are going around with the digitization of land records, or geofencing, and availability of historical climate data, a pretty decent weather forecasting, remote sensing technology, all these things just need to be brought together, at a single place, and and these all things can be provided to an agency like either Acre or an insurance company as a service. So the best part is the insurance aggregator can continue to focus on their customers, servicing their customers, understanding their customers. The insurance company can continue on building their underwriting modelings based on the data, and then there can be dedicated how we call them as agtechs, agriculture technologies company, which work on remote sensing technologies and and data analytics, can continue at the back end of to cultivate that data. And then we are today talking more from the perspective of insurance. Similar data is not just restricted to insurance. It can be used by financing institutions. So if data is available as a service, it can be used by multiple agencies. It can be the cost can drastically come down because there will be multiple buyers for that. And we have seen with MSC's experience, we have helped insurance companies in Fiji to roll out parametric index insurance products, where international agencies from Europe or Asia or India help them to underwrite the models, develop claim models, and also how to analyze the data for underwriting. So the best part about data analytics is it's geography agnostic. It just needs to be, so what analytics or modeling work in India can just be tweaked a little as per the conditions of any other country, Kenya or Uganda, for that matter, and then it can be replicated in those countries. So that's the good part. The tough part is have that data and continue to build upon that data, to build the expertise on that data. So that's from an insurance company's perspective or a underwriting perspective, that's how we see as data to be.
Thank you, Anish, for that input. We are moving towards the conclusion of this discussion, and I just want to give us a chance to give our closing remarks. And Eliud, when you give your closing remarks, I would like you to talk about kind of data that you have available as you interact with the farmers and as you provide them the services that you do. But before that, I saw a hand up from Emeka. I don't know if Emeka had a question. We can also have that posted on the chat. Then we can respond to it in the next few minutes. So in just 1.5 minutes, could you tell us about data that you collect and how it has helped you to serve the customers, the farmers that you serve better? Also, as your closing remarks.
Okay, thank you very much, Ulis. And yes, data is king. And that is something we realized that as a farmer, if we don't leverage data to drive our decisions in farming, our actions will be reactionary and not preventive. So not myself alone, but with other innovators, the farmers that I'm working with, we are trying to see how to leverage this data to bring out the greater good and also reduce our losses. So at Silo Africa, some of the data we're able to pull from the farm is the quality of not from the farm during the storage, is the quality of the grains, the moisture levels. In all this data we're able to provide in real time, the moisture levels, the temperature, the CO2 emissions, and not just for showing whether there's infestation, but also we are looking at the carbon credit. This way, at the end of the day, we'll be able to provide the carbon financing to these farmers. And this data we're able also to provide to the off-takers. They'll be able to know where to source for these grains, the quality of these grains, and where the farmers are located, so that in case of any interventions they want to do, farmer trainings, capacity building, all that, it can be structured that way. And I want to really appreciate what Farid and Anish have really brought up in terms of insurance. And what I would request is let's co-create together. Working in silo, yet we are serving the same smallholder farmer, will not go far. But if we collaborate together and bring out these solutions, like for example, the insurance, the way we structured our insurance bundling, can we incorporate other things like maybe the silos, or also incorporate other technologies into the insurance bundles? Okay, so thank you. Over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Eliud. The call to action is there. Let's not work in silos. Let's collaborate. I see something from Latif Amas saying you work with a company that it can categorize as a data provider. And so you're asking what kind of data would be needed by insurance provider for their product modeling. Maybe that can be also part of Farid, Mr. Wangara's closing remarks. I also see Partha saying, okay, question to Farid as well. Farid, this is yours. Will an end-to-end climate risk management service, including risk reduction, risk absorption, and risk transfer services, be feasible? So Farid, you have a very golden opportunity here to address these questions as you also give us your closing remarks.
Thank you so much, Gutu. Maybe I can start by the answer, just responding to the questions. With regards to data, I think when we are doing agriculture insurance product modeling, we require various sets of data, and they will depend basically on what kind of insurance product that you're putting together. One, if you're looking at what my other panelist was talking about, parametric insurance, these are the index-based insurance, where you use satellite data, you use automated weather stations to be able to monitor, let's say, excessive rainfall, drought, or flooding, or whatever index that you're trying to look for. So you'd heavily be depending on data from satellite data, historical data from weather stations and all that to be able to do modeling. When it comes to, let's say, yield-based products, where you're looking at issues like multi-peril crop insurance and all that, you're technically looking at data from farmers, data from government institutions that would be able to indicate what is the average crop production per region, per certain variety, per certain location. And these are data that we usually just use in terms of product development and monitoring. If you're looking, for example, at developing goods in transit or post-harvest loss insurance products, we're looking at what are these risks that the farmer is exposed to, what are the measures that this farmer has taken to regulate that, and what is something that is beyond the farmer's control that we need to take it up as an insurance company. So yes, we are always open to as much data as it is to model, and as someone had mentioned earlier, data is not just for purposes of agriculture insurance modeling, but it is used by various people within the agriculture ecosystem. Financial institutions that want to lend, they want to be sure that whatever farmers they're lending to in a particular region, or where the productivity is guaranteed, or they're not susceptible to any losses if their money goes there. So all this data is able to help all that. The other question that a panelist was asking about end-to-end climate risk management services, it is a feasible thing, and you find ideally when you're talking about agriculture insurance, largely what insurance companies and people within our fields will always want to focus is on residual risk, the risks ideally that the farmer is not able to take care of. And for example, weather-related risks, these are things that farmers do not have control over. They're not able to sort of take care of. Infestations of some certain pests and diseases, these are things that farmers are not able to take care of. So those are usually the residual risks. And when I started, I talked about integrated risk management, that you need to start training the farmer end to end from what they need to do from planting. Now, for example, what ECA has done, we have developed something we are calling picture-based insurance. And this is almost a self-assessment tool for farmers. And we are using AI machine learning. So a farmer is able to take a photo. There is a specific application that a farmer is able to take a photo with. That photo hits our servers. AI and machine learning is able to identify the normal pests. It's able to identify normal agronomical issues that a farmer is facing, and automatically send SMSs to the farmer around doing that. Because then if the farmers are able to do good and better agronomical practices, that would definitely guarantee their productivity. And then whatever residual risk that the farmer is facing is what then is taken up by insurance company. And this is what we are really advocating, so that it comes from the government side all the way to the farmers. We currently know, for example, the government is offering agriculture insurance subsidy for farmers. The government pays 50%, the farmer pays 50%. So these already are interventions that the government is trying to put in place to assist farmers sort of get into the aspect of wanting to take agriculture insurance for residual risk. So as my last parting shot, I think a lot has been alluded to by my colleagues, and I also want to reiterate that there's no panacea to agriculture. All activities need to take place, and sometimes, as has been mentioned earlier, you'll find that you're doing the same thing. Various people are doing the same thing and operating in silos and sort of not replicating the efforts within the same localities. I think if everyone else is able to work in a coordinated ways, people focusing on where their strengths are within the agriculture value chain and ecosystem, then bringing all that together, we are able to sort of focus on improving the livelihoods of the farmers. Because what we believe from our end and what our tagline says is that we try to attempt to move farmers from normal subsistence farming and for them to begin to look at agriculture from an agribusiness perspective. The minute you move that, then you're addressing the biggest challenge for the sub-Saharan Africa of food security, which everyone currently is talking about. But it's not, so it shouldn't just be about the talk. It starts from the beginning. What are we doing for the farmers? How are we encouraging them to increase productivity? And how are they ensuring any residual losses that they are taking? How are insurances responding to this? Do we have capacity to be able to address this? And if all this is done, then I mean, so many advantages are there, and agriculture is here to stay. I personally believe it's the biggest new frontier. So the more we invest in it, the more we put effort and concentrate within that space, the more farmers will become self-sufficient and eventually working towards the food security. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ongara. And I'm so sorry that we have exceeded our planned time by 2 minutes already, but I would like to give a few seconds to Anish to give us closing remarks in just 3 sentences. Anish?
Thanks. Thanks, Willis. I'll just conclude it here. Fareed has already covered that, insurance, how insurance can help it out. As part of the value chain of the whole, the whole agriculture value chain, where insurance is just a part, it is upon all of us to formalize the agriculture value chain as much as there have been other things that other risks that have been formalized. So you can call it textiles or cement or oil. Everything is formalized. There are, or pharmaceuticals. Everything that is important is formalized, and there are coverages that start from the minute the input manufacturing starts to the point that the consumer consumes it. So if the insurance can be built for these things, why it cannot be built for agriculture, which is mainstay and a very serious requirement for the food security. So it may not be possible for the individuals or small organizations to take it up. It would definitely require a meso or a macro level support to give an initial impetus, and then the industry, the value chain can take it grow on its own. So that's how I would like to conclude on this part. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, esteemed panelists, for being part of this discussion and for valuable points that you have given us here. I'm sure we have all benefited immensely from this. We can continue these conversations on social media, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and any other platforms. You can also reach out to us directly at MSC, and we can we can continue having these conversations. Thank you so much for sparing time for this conversation. We hope to see you again in our next webinar. Thank you and goodbye.